Hey there, I am live and my lovely bride is trying out some new equipment. Let's see, because we don't want to take too much of your time. So this week we're talking about getting out of debt, and we're going to go over a few of the slides quickly, and hopefully you'll be able to notice this, but I'm here with my lovely wife, Sandy Durr of Jane Bird Properties International. And I'm so fortunate that she was able to figure out my curveball that I threw her right there at the end of, or before she got home. You see our phone numbers on there. And of course, the best way to see our phone numbers if you wanted to call us are down at the bottom with the scrolling bar. All right. And so without introducing ourselves any further, I've got a lot of stuff on here that we're going to go through pretty quick. So here's what we're going to cover. And this allows you to figure out if you're in the right place, right? So I wanted to give you kind of a summary of what we're doing. Why get out of debt? Understanding debt, common questions regarding debt, debt management strategies. That's kind of the meat of it. And creating a debt management plan and common debt mistakes. So the purpose of this is obviously we've just come off of the fourth quarter, Christmas time, a lot of spending, and
taxes being done.
Taxes are being figured out and stuff. And we're thinking that there may be some people out there that might be needing a little extra money at this time. We're going to give you some options on how to kind of set the ship on the right track. And so that's what the premise of it is. The other positive part about this is that because homes have continually appreciated over the last, particularly the last 5 or 10 years, right, anybody that's bought a house in that period should have plenty of equity. And so that is not the main point of this particular thing, but we are going to talk about it a little bit about doing a home equity line of credit. Now, I will tell you, nobody wants to give up the interest rates that we've got over in the last 3 to 5 years because they're spectacular. But a HELOC is a second lien on top of that. Anyway, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So
let's go down another rabbit hole.
So here we go. I did that. Okay. Why get out of debt? Well, financial freedom. That's what you want. Financial freedom, lower stress. I know I've been stressing over a tax bill that I was surprised by. So just extra stress I didn't need. Improves credit score a lot of times, savings and investment, budget control, asset protection, retirement planning. All of those are really good things. So that's why somebody would want to get out of debt. Why anybody would want to stay in debt? I didn't have anything for that. Nobody wants
to do that.
All right, what is debt? Now, first thing I'm going to draw attention to is the image that I put here, and it's missing one little kind of a significant part of what we talk about, and that's the student loan debt. But this really wraps up most people's debt without the student loans. But debt is an obligation of financial liability. Individuals borrow money that they are expected to repay with interest over a specified period. Consumer debt refers to credit cards, student loans, auto loans, and mortgages. Now, did I miss any, Sandy?
I think that pretty much encompasses everything.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the majority of one.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So, find my mice here. All right, so how is debt similar to slavery? So I just kind of came right out of the blue and made this similarity, and this is why I think I did it this way. Modern slaves are not in chains, they are in debt. And here's the problem. With this debt comes the obligation to work. So a lot of us are working to pay our debt. We put ourselves in that position where we have accumulated debt, whether it be a house, a car, or credit cards, or whatever, and now we don't have any choice but to work to pay for the debt. And it's not dissimilar. So you lost some freedom. You've got control by others, your debtors. it limits your opportunities because you have to go to work. And then there's also a little bit of a social stigma, not dissimilar from if you were a slave to somebody or something, you would be a slave to your debt. So there's that too. So I don't know if that's a valid thing, but I know when financial freedom is that whole point is when you don't have to do anything because you're free of the financial stress and burden of debt.
Right.
So that's what I was kind of making there. All right. What does the Bible teach about debt? Well, this isn't a Bible study class, but it could be. And I do have a recommendation for you later that I did a class that I thought was superb. But Proverbs 22:7, the rich rules over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. Well, I kind of said that, didn't I? Not that I would never take anything, me over the Bible. The Bible's first. Romans 13:8, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. In Psalm 37:21, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. And then finally, in the ones I'm going to list, I think there's 2,500 different references to debt in the Bible. So we just picked these 4. In Matthew 6:24, no one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And this is one I know I struggled with, particularly early in my life, where it was all about work. And it wasn't about the things that were important, like my family and my children, and just the other things that were around me. And I chose pretty much to be a workaholic for a long, long time. All right. Sandy, I think you have some questions. Hopefully you've got some questions that consumers might ask. Do you have that?
Yeah. I was kind of scrolling through and thinking, back in our younger days and all that, but how do you start getting out of debt?
Okay.
Somebody's in debt. Somebody's gotten to that point. They got into some trouble. Where's the starting point for them?
Well, the starting point is to stop spending.
Yep.
that kind of is it, or start generating new debt.
Stop the bleeding.
I think the way Dave Ramsey says it is he cuts the credit cards. And I don't know if you have to cut the credit cards, but you have to take them out of your wallet and put them. I've heard somebody that put them in the freezer, put them in a glass of water in a freezer so that they had to let them take them out of there and melt them before they'd use them, just to keep you from doing that. And the key thing that Dave Ramsey talks about is something has to change. You've got to change something to stop these habits that got you into this problem that you've got right now.
Right. Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the best debt repayment strategy that you've heard of?
Well, there are 2 main repayment strategies. One's called the Snowball. One's called the Avalanche. And the best one is the one that's going to work for you. And I'll explain this a little bit later in there. The Avalanche is one where you list your debts and you choose to pay them off by the interest rate. The debt Snowball has a little more success, well, maybe a lot more success, but you list the debts by the amount, the balance, the lowest to the highest. And you start with the smaller ones. And the case for that is that you have some success early, so it kind of keeps you going.
Yeah, and then you just keep applying what you were paying to the next debt.
Yep.
Starts piling up. Okay, how can I negotiate with any creditors, maybe for a lower interest payment?
Well,
the debtors now with the credit cards, it's crazy what they're charging now.
Yeah, you don't even want to. One of the things I thought about doing was getting the list of the microscopic print they put on your mortgage or your credit card statement, and showing you what you might be paying on a credit card. And it's brutal right now. I mean, it's well above the 20s, and it's akin to a loan shark. I mean, really. But you can negotiate with these guys probably if you are in a struggle and you've had some late payments. You might want to get them before you have the late payments and tell them that you may be getting ready to have some late payments, because if you don't have late payments, they probably won't talk to you. But once you or put, the leverage kind of goes over to you a little bit when you're saying, look, I want to pay you. I just can't afford it right now. I may need to cut down the interest rate or something and get them to help you that way. So there's definitely an opportunity to negotiate with the creditors. You just may have to wait till you're right at the end.
Okay, what about a debt consolidation? I know I've had several clients that they've used that method. They've had something catastrophic happen in their lives, and the debt consolidation seemed to be an answer for them.
Debt consolidation is a good one. Here's the first debt consolidation is when you consolidate all your debt, then you've got to figure out who's going to be the source or the lender for that debt consolidation.
Right.
It can be, there are some personal ones. I think SoFi is one of the ones that does that. We actually are just able now to do a second lien. And the second liens, they're not inexpensive, but they're better than giving up the 2 or 3 or 4% interest you've got on your mortgage to redo that. The rates are actually better on what we call as a cash out refinance, but they're still not good enough to make up for those lower rates. And what I would do is I would show you what you can do on a HELOC or a home equity line of credit compared to what you could do with a cash out refinance. The big part of it is the cash out refinance is for the bigger refis. The HELOC is a second lien that sits on top of your existing mortgage. So those are out there. There are not a lot of people doing them. And because of that, the rates are a little bit high, but they're definitely an answer for some people if you have some kind of trauma.
Okay, so what would be some consequences for not paying my debt? I just say I'm just not going to pay you.
Well, it
Well,
depends.
we know about what's going to happen with your home.
Well, if it's credit card debt, the consequences are that your credit scores are going to go down. There's going to be a bazillion collectors calling you, harassing you to get that money, and it's uncomfortable. But when stuff happens like that, you just have to make hard decisions on who gets paid. If you can do that, if you can get the home equity line of credit or the resolution to that some way with a cash out refi before you get to that point, then you can, those might be better options than not paying your credit.
Do you know of any government programs that help with this?
Not really. And I saw something I watched the Dave Ramsey thing today, and he says relying on the government right now is not really a great idea. They're just not. Look how they're handling their money. That was the key thing he said. If you think if that's a model for you to handle your money like the government does, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, let's not follow their example. Okay, how then can I create a budget so that I don't get into this kind of situation?
Okay, we are going to talk about that, but yeah, creating a budget is just listing the debts and the payments and just kind of putting it on a sheet of paper so that you can see what's there and you can figure out how much is going to be outgoing each month, how much you've got left after you pay all your bills, and just kind of figuring it out. And there's definitely some people like myself, I could help you with that, with spreadsheets and things. And I've spent most of the afternoon looking at different options on spreadsheets that were out there that could help you do that. So making the plan, getting the budget.
Independent. Is bankruptcy ever a viable plan for somebody?
What is, there's two different kinds of bankruptcies that consumers use, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is one where you just kind of walk away from all your debt. I'm done. I can't pay this back. It's pretty short period. It's pretty drastic too. And from a biblical perspective, like one of the things we said, it's not good to not pay your debts. You accrued those debts. You should pay them.
Right.
The Chapter 13 is one that I have to endorse more aggressively because it's a workout type deal. And that's what you would work some kind of situation where you would figure out a payment schedule for all those creditors. And it's a little more controlled. It's got attorneys involved. But as far as, it is an option. It's pretty drastic, but it is an option.
So eventually, how does this debt then affect your credit score? I can't imagine it's not going to be good.
So we talked about this last week in the
Mhm.
credit thing that we did. So as you accumulate debt, particularly on the credit cards, as the usage goes to the top, and the reason that the creditor's algorithm is such that the higher the balance you have, the lower the score goes, is because that's a signal to them that somebody might be getting ready to walk away from their debt.
Yeah.
When you're up in that 90% ratio of usage to limit, then it scares them. And that's exactly what triggers the scores to go down and why the scoring algorithm is like it is. So not good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's most of the questions that I kind of looked at that
Okay.
people would be asking.
Yeah, I think those were good questions.
Mhm.
Let's move on. So, debt management strategies. The first thing is create a detailed budget. If you don't know how to do that, you can call either Sandy or I, and we'll try to guide you on that. But the first thing to do after you list them, you prioritize the debts. The debt snowball is Dave Ramsey. I don't know if he created it, but he endorses it. I like it. I've seen both, and there's actually a way to do a combination of the two.
Mhm.
The debt consolidation, again, since you now have access to a home equity line of credit, could be an option. It's definitely a quicker option, and just because you're paying a much lower interest over, particularly the credit cards, it's an option right now. Like Sandy said, negotiate lower interest rates with the creditors. Hey, here's one, love it. Increase your income. If you have an emergency fund, and we're going to talk about that's one of the key things that we think is an important thing, go see a financial advisor. And more than anything else is you got to be committed to change. If
Mhm.
you have gotten some way, you've gotten into this debt crisis, you've got to be committed and you've got to just say, I'm going to change.
Right.
So things have to change.
Mhm.
So here's the 7 financial baby steps that are Dave Ramsey's. Baby step number 1, save $1,000 for your emergency fund. So what this means is you've made your budget, you set it down, and you figured out that you can save, whether it's $50 a month or $100 a month or whatever you're going to do, and you're chopping off, the amount of money that goes to food, or you're making some sacrifice to get this $1,000 in an emergency fund so that you can handle and don't have to use your credit cards when stuff happens. And
Can I tell them how we started ages ago with our emergency fund?
sure, yeah.
We had this big old jug. We put all of our change in it, and when we cashed it in, it was quite a bit of money.
That was just the money that we'd come home and I'd empty my pockets and I'd put that change in there.
Me
And
too. Same. I just empty my wallet of the change, and we just
didn't even think about it, and it just grew and grew and
yeah.
grew.
Mhm.
So there's definitely ways to do that. And it also, again, starts that discipline about thinking consistently that you've got to limit your spending and you've got to build up this thing. And the best thing is it allows you, if you do it Dave Ramsey way, you've already cut off your credit cards.
Right.
So you can't use them anymore. So you need to have that emergency fund for when the washing machine breaks or when the tire goes out or when, the fan belt, you need some kind of car work or something like that. That's what that's for, so that you're not using credit cards.
Right.
All right. So baby step number 2, pay off all debt using the debt snowball. And I've got a couple more slides about the debt snowball. Baby step number 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. So the first emergency fund's $1,000. That's the baby step 1. Baby step 3, after you've paid off all the debt, then you build up that fund to a little more substantial money. And what that does, and the worst thing that can happen to many of us is a job loss or a probably health is worse than that. But for some reason, you're not able to work. And in most cases, 3 to 6 months gives you that cushion that will allow you to get through that without having some kind of financial trauma.
Right.
So that's the premise of that. Baby step number 4, you invest 15% of your household income for retirement. This helps build up retirement for later days. That's a very positive thing. If you could do more than that, it's even better. Baby step 5, save for children's college fund. Now, if you have children that are going to go to college, then, unless they're amazing athletes or intellects or, have some kind of special characteristics, you're going to need money for college, and particularly the cost of college these days. My argument would be, I don't think college is what it used to be. And so you might point them to be plumbers or electricians, or I don't know what, there are a lot of different things out there right now. I'm not sure college is on the top of my list right now, but you still want to have money for those kiddos to do what they want to do, what they're excited about. Baby step number 6. Now, I think it's interesting. And of course, pay off your home mortgage is number 6. So that's well after you've done all this other stuff. And the reason for that is because usually the interest rate is the lowest. Also, the home is one of the things that continues to appreciate. All the other debt that you're paying off is going to be debt on stuff that's depreciating.
Right.
Home appreciates, and that's why it's put on the backside of it. And it's still a pretty nice thing to have a home that's paid off. Baby step number 7 is you build wealth and you give generously to others that need help, to the church, to the people that can't take care of themselves, to the people that might have mental problems. This is what you do when you're at baby steps number 7. And to be I think the way Dave Ramsey says, a cheerful giver, God loves that. So those are the baby steps. I love the whole baby step program. I love Dave Ramsey stuff. I don't love all his mortgage stuff. I don't agree with all of it, but this stuff I totally agree with, and big fan of his. I have a video of this one, the debt snowball system. Look on YouTube. If you are taking notes on this, take this one down. Proven Biblical Money Principles by Dave Ramsey. It's about 35 minutes and it will bless you. I promise you. So, but here we go. How to make a debt snowball spreadsheet. You list your debts and you list them in an order: minimum payments and minimum balances. Continue making payments on all debts except the smallest one. So you're going to make, when it talks about credit cards mainly, but the minimum balance is the one that's going to be at the top, and you're going to pay the minimum payment on all your debts except the smallest one. And for that one, that's going to be your accelerator. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're going to aim at paying that one off as fast as you possibly can. And I've got an example of that in just a minute. Focus on paying off the smallest debt first. Celebrate the victory when a debt is paid off. In other words, go out to dinner, spend a little extra money because you were successful in paying off one of these debts. And then the snowball, the next smallest debt, you tackle that one the next month. Take the money that you were paying on the paid off debt and add those funds to the next smallest debt. That's how the snowball works. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the reason this one works better than the Avalanche, which I'll explain to you, is because you have success sooner.
Right.
And when you have success, it's inspiring to get one of them behind you, and you've had that success, and you'll
get motivated. Yeah, you're very motivated then.
Yep. All right, so here's a debt snowball spreadsheet example, and it's interesting the way these debts were set up. I didn't do this, but these debts are laid out here. Notice that the interest rate seem to be from the highest to the lowest, but it's also the balances are the lowest to the highest. So this particular one is manipulated to work for both of us. But in this case, the $25 monthly payment is the minimum payment, and the extra payment, or the accelerator, I came up with this just off my top of my head, is $200. So we're going to pay $225 on that $1,000 debt. And again, it assumes we're not getting any more debt. We're not charging to this card anymore, right? It will have interest charges, but that's why I put that after you pay that first one, you're down to $775. That's the $225 from the $1,000. In 5 months, that debt's going to be paid off. Yahoo! We're celebrating. Then you take the $225 that you were paying here. The minimum payment on this one's $75. So now you've got $300 to pay towards debt number 2. And without calculating the interest and stuff like that, $300 into 3,000 is 10 months. So 10 and a half months or 11 months later, that one's paid off. So you've got 2 debts that are paid off. And then you can see how the rest of it works. The 300 that you were paying there, you add that to the 100 you're paying there. And now you've got $400 a month paying 5,000. That's 12 and a half months. And then the same thing here's 6,000, 12 and a half months. So at the end, you spent 4.5 years to pay this off. It freed up the $465. All right.
Right.
So this is not a short-term get it done quickly thing. This is a very disciplined 4 or 5 year thing. But most of these, because of the numbers on this is an average of it. But even if the numbers are a lot more than this, you can still do this in 4, 5, 7 years and be completely out of debt. And
well, then you take into account if you got a little second job, Uber driver, something like that, something part-time at home. You can also add that extra income into this.
That's right. That's a great example is that you can accelerate it by maybe a lot more than $200. Mm-hmm. And in this case, this was just an example, but it took 4.5, 6 years. To some that seemed like a lot. Boy, I tell you, it's a blur when you're there. I can tell you. So I put in the Snowball, you arrange the list by the lowest, balance first. Reason we like this method is because you'll have success quicker. So I just added that later. This is the debt Avalanche spreadsheet. And in this particular case, the debts are the same because the way this thing was constructed, the interest rates are from, you want to pay off the highest interest rates first. In this case, I didn't do the math on this, and this will definitely save you money if you do it this way. The problem with it is that, well, in this case, it would be the same. But if the interest rates are on the higher debt, it takes so long to get one paid off that a lot of people get frustrated and give up.
Right.
And it's easy to do that. So we're trying to avoid the give up part of it and just get it done. And so you can try both. There's actually a hybrid of this too, where if you had one that was a high interest rate but a low debt balance, you could put that on there too. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to do. All right. And then I did this debt consolidation option. So this debt adds up to $25,000. The minimum payments add up to $590. The $25,000 is a debt consolidation of that. Interest rates around between 10.5% and 13.5%. That's just what they are. They're lower than credit card debt, but this is how this would work. If you did that for a 30 year, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it for 30 years. As a matter of fact, these terms are they're not even right because this is a home equity line of credit. It is usually on an adjustable rate, and it's usually not a term. So you could pay for this however you wanted to, but if it were a fixed rate loan, it's not. These are examples of how the payment for 5 years is still going to be less than the $590 that is just the natural way that you'd pay these. Okay, so I compared that. Now, you notice on a couple of these slides, I put this QR code here. QR code goes right to some information about me. So if you obviously wanted that, then definitely can get it there. All right. Debt management mistakes. Not changing spending habits. If you don't cut up the credit cards or you don't stop using the credit cards, that's a mistake.
Right.
Paying only the minimum amount. A lot of people do that and they think they still have room to do credit. That you can't do that. You've got to aggressively pay those down. And it's a mistake to try to pay 4 different debts a little bit extra. Just focus on one. Get that one done. Go to the next one. Ignoring a budget. It's a mistake. Not prioritizing debts. It's a mistake. Losing sight of financial goals. I mean, at some point in time, I think the numbers on the people that get to age 65 and have no money whatsoever saved for their retirement. And the problem with that is you're kind of relying on our government. We talked about the government, not a good entity to rely on based on what I've seen. Not building an emergency fund, ignoring your credit reports. And one of the things that you want to do is on this one, the credit report would be a good tool to be able to list your debts. Now, the statements that you get each month are helpful too. But the other thing that we talked about last week was making sure you check credit reports at least twice a year so that you can make sure that they're being reported correctly for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final thing is, a mistake is not seeking financial education. I mean, this is stuff that makes a big difference. And it appears that the majority of people don't think about it until it's too late.
Right.
And so we want to bring that to the front of your attention right now. Hopefully this will make you a smarter, better future for you. And that's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So, here's what we covered today. Want to get out of debt, understanding debt, common questions regarding debt, debt management strategies, creating a debt management plan, common debt mistakes, and much, much more. Obviously, it seems to me like we went through this really fast, but it's probably as much as you can handle at this time. You've got our numbers scrolling at the bottom. Love to hear from you if you have any questions. This is me when I look at my debt. Not really. We've done a pretty good job on our debt. Not perfect, but we're getting out. But anyway, Sandy, anything I forgot to add?
No, I think that's it. Just watch what you're spending, save, give to people. That's what God tells us to do. And
so you follow a gal in Austin. I think you told me about it. She had a plan that she set forth for realtors. You remember?
Well, it's called the bucket system. So you make sure you're paying into your savings account every month. Make sure you're pulling taxes out every month. But you have to meet your financial obligations first, then savings, then church, then retirement. But if you follow that and just put them into the buckets, and then if anything's extra, then you can go spend and do some fun stuff. But you got to take care of the priorities of those buckets first.
Yeah, I like that. I know you like it too.
I do.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, we'd love it if you made comments. We'd love if you subscribe. If we're doing something wrong, be sure and tell us. I mean, we want to do it right, but we do appreciate those that came on tonight, and we'll look for next week. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next week, but it may be about investment property. I think that we may go there next week, Sandy. Does that sound like a good one for you?
Sounds fun. We like that.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody.